Lisa the Painful has this horrible scene where its main character Brad comes into conflict with a close childhood friend, and it concerns his own daughter, Buddy. You see, up to this point in the story, we've known the character Rick as someone who's helped Brad with arguably the most precious secret there is in this world, the existence of the only known female in Olathe. Once that secret gets out and Buddy is taken from him, Brad sets out to get her back and comes across Rick again out in the wild. But their interactions are far from friendly. Things have changed. Unbeknownst to Brad, there has been a growing resentment towards him and his own friend group. His daughter grew up around him and his pals her whole life, knowing no one else, and over time their perspective on Brad shifted. Rick explains that Brad is selfish for having hoarded Buddy just so he can feel better about a mistake from his past. But what exactly is this mistake that Brad is working so hard to remedy? It's bad enough that it's reflected on his appearance after all. Brad has the look of a broken and beaten man with eyes devoid of any happiness or positive affirmation. Surprisingly, this isn't because he's married. Brad is not fond of Rick's refusal to help him get Buddy back. As far as he's concerned, all diplomatic ways to resolve this have been exhausted. He takes up a nearby bat and delivers blow after blow to his former friend. Brad leaves Rick bound and lifeless and continues to find Buddy, regardless of the consequences. In this cave, he comes across another person from his past, but this time it's not Chris, and he's also not alone. Like Chris before him, this new person offers Rick an impossible choice: his left arm or the life of one of his party members. You can try and fight your way out, but it doesn't go well. The person in question is called Buzzo, and his connection to Brad runs deeper than the bully before him. We'll find out more about him as we progress through the story. I offer him one of my party members that I don't really use, as I need to be in tip-top shape in order to save Buddy. Party members are replaceable, my arms are not. Choices like these in games are more commonplace now, and they aren't the most creative for sure, but they still do a decent job of getting us to really dislike the character in question who's pushing this choice on the main character. It's a good thing we have both of our arms too, because going outside reveals a dying motorcyclist who offers his motorcycle to us on the condition we don't use a helmet because that's lame. Fair enough. This part is a reminder that Lisa has a surprising amount of action set pieces, which is a brave feat for anything made in RPG Maker, an engine that doesn't really give you the physics and subtlety that makes most action games fun. Brad's bike comes to an abrupt stop after hitting something, that something being Rando. The full-on collision from a motorcycle doesn't so much as faze him, so this quickly sets up how strong he actually is. It also sets up how merciful he is. Rando feels bad for totaling Brad's bike and offers him several full heal items in exchange for the inconvenience, all without saying a word. I was glad he did so too, because at this point in the game I was hurting for some sustainability in battle. Brad catches a glance underneath Rando's mask. Inside the eye holes he sees tears running down his face. The exact reason why isn't clear. Perhaps Rando has a connection to Brad that goes deeper than just what we've seen so far. Jesus, it seems like Brad can't go so much as 10 feet without running into someone he has some history with. Not all of Rando's underlings agree with him helping you though, so you'll have to fight them. The battle's not too bad, especially if you have items that attack all enemies at once. After risking your life over snacks, you'll be interrupted by an entire team of what looks like the Power Rangers. Each one has their own accompanying animal sound as they strike their pose, and they end on quite the note. They appear to be doing battle with some sort of Snake Man dude thing, but they're far too busy maintaining their pose to actually fight. So Brad decides to take matters into his own hands. He is not alone though. At this point in the story, several party members have joined us on our journey to get Buddy back. They include Olan, a man who's good with both a bow and a bottle, and Farty, a train wreck of a person that makes up for it with his ability to use a devastating truck attack. The cruelty of Lisa's world is exacerbated further by the way it handles your party members. Party members in Lisa are not permanent things you hang on to after getting to a certain cutscene in its story. They are finite resources that can be lost forever if you don't play your cards right, and this is provided you get them in the first place. Many are off the main path, requiring you to either fill some exact condition or gain some special item to get them to team up with you. Brad discovers an unoccupied vehicle, and while he may not be forklift certified, no one ever said anything about bulldozers, so he hops in and causes an expected amount of chaos. After this, he happens across a new landmass and a village that is decidedly green for what we've come to expect from this world, and it doesn't take long for us to realize that something is certainly up with this place. Characters are completely still, and not just because Dingaling doesn't know what an idle animation is, but because they're fixated on their object of worship, Wally. A fast food restaurant that feeds the citizens of this village, and as you probably deduced, a steady stream of food, no matter what kind it is an infinitely rare resource in Olathe. A friend of mine unfortunately provided some voice acting for this scene, and it caused someone to straight up leave our call.
Dear Lord, praise my name. I like
I wasn't confident in beating one of the bosses here, so I decided to take a detour to the swamp area. Lisa rarely has random encounters, but sometimes when passing over the grass here you will have to fight a poisonous snake, so tread carefully. But something is amiss, because eventually the reeds and dark green grass give way to an evening sky and lush trees. We're in another flashback. I have to say, I love the smoothness with which Lisa handles its flashback sequences. Omori's format of switching between the real world and the main character's dreams works for the story it's trying to tell, but it is really nice to see a title that just has these two stories working so well in tandem. One moment we'll see Brad making his way past ruined buildings or bandits to try and get his daughter back, and in another, we'll be in the distant past sorting out his inner conflicts. It keeps a nice pace and lets us explore the protagonist with an ease that many storytelling formats don't allow themselves. Brad was still shackled to his bad habits, even before the Flash, and checks in with some students he's training, including one in the back who's nervous enough that he's scared to even approach Brad at all. He never had a biological child, but still, he connected with his pupils and did want to make sure that everything was okay in their own personal lives. Predictably, it isn't long before we're in the swamp again, and there's a secret area here too. Jumping down this one tile-wide gap puts us in a mossy cavern, and at the tail end resides a town populated by fish people. You can't speak with most of them, but while you're here be sure to get the green paste from this NPC, as it'll be important later, as will this sea map, but if Brad grabs it he's knocked out cold and wakes up to a most frightening situation. Fish court. Thankfully you'll have a fish lawyer as well named Harvey. Harvey is very eager to represent you, the only problem being that he seems to be more convinced that he's supposed to roast the jury rather than sway them of your innocence. It seems bad at first, but fortunately they take the bait and you eventually absolve yourself, which is insane because Harvey admits that he has no idea what those fish people were saying in there. But fortunately things go well enough and Harvey decides to join your party. To this game's credit, this is the best fish courtroom drama I've seen in any piece of entertainment. So basically just the wet floor sign incident from SpongeBob. Heading out of the fish town into the construction site, you can approach the top right of the map and find a character named Carp. Giving him the green paste from earlier allows him to join your party, and he's not bad either. He's got a poison attack and several melee ones that can hit multiple times. It's around here that I run into a big conundrum. After resting at a campfire near the crossroads, I woke up to discover that one of my most important party members was taken in the night, Birdie. You see, Birdie has a move where he can spit on enemies, and it synergizes really well with Brad's fireball attack. If I can't use this technique, I'll have to actually think, which has never been my strong suit. The gang that stole Birdie offers to give him back for 200 mags, but I'm short, so I set out to earn it the best way I can. Roulette. Roulette is a minigame where you can wager the lives of your party members against NPCs to earn mags. It's a great great place for when you're in a slump and have lots of party members that you don't really use. I go deep on this minigame. Brad has become antiquated with several people and one fish who are helping him on his quest to save Buddy. There's Tiger, a dojo fighter who can inflict heavy bleeding damage, Bo, a man donning a submarine helm that has a nice party heal ability, a weeb named Yazan, who uses a samurai sword and eats cat food, the Pink Ranger from that group of superheroes we came across earlier, and Queen, a no-nonsense people pleaser who hates excuses. There's a buy-in for this minigame of 50 mags, so I start throwing money at this thing like it's Wikipedia. Not gonna lie, I lose several party members that I'd have loved to experiment with, but alas, Birdie is my top priority, and I'm willing to lose several men to get him back. Fast forward some questionable roulette choices, some criminal negotiations, and I'm not only reunited with Birdie, but back on the story's main path, and this time, I'm ready to fight the boss of this area, Wally. The exact way Wally gets fast food for the village is unknown, but going off the fleshy aesthetic of his design and where you fight him, it's easy to piece together that it's all incredibly sketchy. Going through the door on the right, you'll be treated to some gross hallways and timing challenges with spiders that resemble Brad's father, Marty. Marty's appearances aren't always traditional visions. The way he haunts Brad manifests in different ways. But where does Lisa herself tie into all this? Well, you might have already deduced that. Ding-a-ling strikes a good balance of putting just enough hints in front of the player that they can deduce what happens without telling them outright, and to my own dismay, enough that they don't have to consult videos like this one. Save for straight explaining verbatim what happened, there are clues everywhere. From the title screen of the game, we see what inevitably happens to Lisa. It was the only escape she could conceive of after dealing with everything that was put on her, and while it might be the culmination of what Marty did, Brad holds himself responsible for what occurred. He didn't stand up to his father or let anyone know the awful stuff that was happening in their house. It'd have been terrible enough if Brad just had to cope with what happened to himself, but with the passing of his sister, he has to essentially live with the sin that his own father committed via his complacency. And the fact that the game is able to balance subject matter so heavy it would make Atlas cringe with this is an amazing feat. Exiting the cave, Brad is enveloped in rain, sweeping across Olathe's countryside. Between the drops, he makes out a faint object dangling from a tree. Stepping forward, it's her. And even if we found Buddy here, you know all too well that this story is more complex than a simple rescue mission, and what Buddy says in this cave is not exactly easy to hear. Brad's taken aback at these comments. Buddy is not as in the dark as she once was, and she's resistant to Brad's take on what normal is, but if we're being completely honest, Brad shouldn't be surprised that there is a widening gap between him and his daughter, because in part 1 of this series, I didn't show you everything in that house. Buddy's life was not a cakewalk. In her father's paranoia to keep her existence a secret, her life was compromised severely. She couldn't so much as step outside the house without being scolded, forced to constantly wear her disguise. She grew up not being able to see Olathe, other kids, or anyone really outside of Brad's close-knit friend group. Her curiosity for the world never being satisfied is partially why it was inevitable that something like this would happen. In the time Brad's been gone, Rick and Sticky being another one of Brad's former friends, have been taking care of her and informing her of how important she really is. They also explained their father's crippling relationship with Joy. Whether this was manipulation to create a rift between Buddy and her father to further their own urges, or to actually help the human populace, is anyone's guess, but from what the story's shown us so far, Rick at least seems like a pretty decent guy, so it's difficult to think that it's all just to spite Brad. Brad's paranoia over what Sticky is doing to his daughter pollutes his mind, and the vague language Buddy is using doesn't exactly help. Buddy reluctantly joins you, but it won't be for long. We've already seen that Lisa the Painful is not afraid to take power completely away from the player. Even though it does this on many occasions, it remains a powerful and stomach-churning moment each time. It's Buzzo again. Who is this guy? Seriously. Only the most potent malice can drive someone to do this. It's not enough to just make Brad suffer. He wants to see him squirm under his thumb. Like a Diablo 4 developer, Buzzo is annoyed at the sign of any positive change. Whether the player chooses to do joy or not up to this moment is almost irrelevant, as they're forced to take several helpings of it right in front of Brad's daughter. Brad initially refuses this, but
Yeah, yeah, ha, ha, ha.